On January the 6th, 2021, the world watched in shock as the US Capitol was stormed. But for some, it wasn't such a surprise.
He didn't look up from his phone and said something to the effect of, "There's a lot going on, Cass, but I don't know, things might get real bad on January 6th.
That conversation with former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows is just the start of Cassidy Hutchinson's explosive testimony. The former White House aide has detailed what happened behind the scenes on the day of the Capitol attack to the committee investigating the insurrection, revealing that ahead of Donald Trump's rally, he was aware people had weapons.
I overheard the president say something to the effect of, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here.
President Trump was aware that a number of the individuals in the crowd had weapons and were wearing body armor. And here's what President Trump instructed the crowd to do.
We're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol.
The former president wasn't at the Capitol as protesters stormed, but Ms. Hutchinson testified that he was fighting to join his supporters, only to be stopped by his security.
The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now." To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel.
Donald Trump used his own social media site to deny the allegations. With the explosive testimony, the committee will now seriously consider bringing in the Trump administration's top lawyer, Pat Cipollone.
It was really sad. As an American, I was disgusted. It was unpatriotic. It was un-American.
Shocking insights from someone on the inside. Sarah Jane Bell, ABC News.
Now, Julia, who is Cassidy Hutchinson and why was her decision to testify considered so significant?
Cassidy Hutchinson was the chief of staff of White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. So she was clearly very close to the president. She was clearly someone who was close to the president's chief of staff. So she was very much had an inside look at the inner workings of the White House in general, but especially on January 6th. There are so many blocks of time during January 6th where we don't have that much information as to where the president was, what he was doing, what his state of mind was. So this was able to give us more of an inside look as to what happened. Now, of course, the president and his allies are downplaying her testimony, denying it, but it's certainly been a shock, I think, to a lot of us in Washington, hearing what exactly went down behind closed doors that day, according to Hutchinson.
What was most surprising about her testimony? What stood out to you?
Well, there were a number of things. I think, first of all, we heard that, according to Hutchinson, there were protesters or attendees of President Trump's rally earlier that day at the White House Ellipse who were apparently armed and had weapons. And President Trump wanted them in attendance at the Ellipse and wanted them, wanted the crowd to be as big as possible, despite the fact they had those weapons. So that's raised, I think, a lot of eyebrows because clearly there was going to be this march later that day. He knew there were weapons involved. And then subsequently, the president said, we're going to march down to the Capitol. So that raised a lot of questions. There's also a bigger question about the president's behavior in the car, close to the Capitol. Hutchinson testified that the president wanted to go to the Capitol to join protesters. And when his security detail director and the driver of that vehicle said, "No, Mr. President, we're not going to go there," he allegedly, according to Hutchinson, lunged at them and tried to grab the steering wheel. Now, Trump denying that. And in fact, there's lots of reports saying that the driver and the security detail director are willing to testify that that did not happen. But I think all of this paints a picture as to, the lengths President Trump was willing to go to make a statement on January 6th and to be involved, according to Cassidy Hutchinson.
She's certainly been brave in coming forward, receiving death threats, I understand. How difficult has it been to get some of the key witnesses to come forward, including the White House Chief of Staff and Counsel?
It's been difficult. I think, not only is there this issue of security and potential death threats that have actually come in, but there's a political future to keep involved here. Look, President Trump, whether you like it or not, is still the head of the Republican Party, or the de facto head of the Republican Party. He is seen as someone who has a lot of sway among Republican voters. His base is still very influential. So I think a lot of these political figures who need to figure out whether they are going to come before the committee to testify are sort of weighing that with their own political future and their own future working for President Trump, or who may or may not be a major figure in the Republican Party going forward, but for now is.
Well, this particular hearing was an unexpected one. Will we see more of these, and what happens next with these hearings?
Right. So we're supposed to see more of the hearings going forward. We didn't think we would have any more hearings until July. However, yesterday's was a bit of a surprise. We know that there have been other surprises, other twists and turns in these many hearings. So there could potentially be more. However, we do know there will definitely be more hearings going forward. But look, the committee has to wrap up, especially before midterm season really kicks off and the campaign season kicks off. So I think they're looking to move through this pretty quickly, while at the same time still making their case.
Meanwhile, Julia, a Florida man has pleaded guilty to 3 felony charges related to the insurrection and storming of the US Capitol.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is just one example of, people across the country continuing to, face legal action for their actions during the insurrection. We know that this was a nationwide effort, that there were people across the country who descended upon Washington. So this is yet another update in that legal action. I think you can definitely expect to see more.
Julia Manchester, thanks for updating us.
Thank you.